Good evening. It's Wednesday, the 26th. So far, full day of Pandaria. Got my monk up to level 24. Tank, obviously. Just running around getting herbs right now because inscription's a pain. Kinda. Got a tip from a guildie. You need to go AFK in the middle of nowhere, at least on a PvE server. Open up a pet battle. No enemies are going to go after you, which is a good thing. So, yeah, boyfriend and I have hit 87. I've gotten alter time. He got, I think, what he's currently considering craptastic blinding light. I think that's what it's called, blinding light. He just put on craptastic at the beginning. Because, well, it's an AoE disorient. I could see why that's useful, but I'm not necessarily sure. We're going to try it out on a few things to see if it works in a weird way. Such as, like, one of the big creatures doing its channeling of its big old belly flop thing. Can he just run up and do that and, like, disorient it and stop it from doing that? Even though it's uninterruptible. I know there are things that are considered uninterruptible, and that's why you can't use like counterspell or wind shear or kick on them. But as I found out on my rogue, you can cheap chop them because that stuns them, and it's not actually interrupting their cast; it's interrupting anything they're doing, and so it's a little workaround. So I'm thinking that might be it, which would give a paladin 3 possible interrupts. But then again, I don't think it would work on a boss. That's why I don't think it's too terribly useful. I think it's more for Ret. Probably could make good use of it. It's also probably good for, it's probably a PvP thing. I wouldn't know about PvP. The times I've gone in and done it, I'm like completely screwed around. I've gone in and complete non-resilience gear and just tried to be the most annoying person. It's like when I was in the middle of AV. Oh, hey, let's run inside Vanadar's Keep and Arcane Explosion when the Horde come in. Because they've got to test with all the different things. Either that or I attack them. And since I'm next to him and the aggro and Vanadar might run outside, or I just run into the lot of them and I just Arcane Explosion, or I Frost Nova and throw out Flame Orb because they can't attack that. It just hits them all. It just sort of annoys the healers, and so that's, you know, it's kind of hard to ignore that much raid damage. Anyways, chewing my finger apart. Yeah, I'm pretty good on the pet battles right now. I'm certainly not the highest in my guild. I didn't play Pokemon as a kid. I'm 31. Pokemon was a little after my time. So, yeah. What was on the news? Oh. Yeah, apparently across the nation, there's been this like sweeping reform to public school lunches, and several high schools across the country. I think like at least 5 in each time zone. That would make it about 20 high schools from definite disparate areas. They actually they basically waited and they looked at the garbage from a typical lunch day. Yeah. And they coupled that with what the lunch lady said they were putting onto trays and the math. I mean, well, this is good information. You know, when I was in high school, I looked at these kids that did this sort of thing, and I just sort of, well, I called them hippies. I was wrong. They're not, but you know how things go. High school's weird. Anybody says that they were a nice, normal, well-adjusted person in high school didn't go to high school, public high school at least. I mean, you might have been if you went to a Catholic high school or maybe Presbyterian, but nobody by the age of 30 looks back 12 years prior to high school and says, I was a well-adjusted individual. Kind of weirds me out when people use the term individual. I understand it's a very specific term. It's also ridiculously long. It's like, you want to call them an individual. You can't even call them a person. This person, you are an individual. And I don't know where that came from. What made it so that people had, it was more politically correct to call them individuals instead of persons? Because an individual would denote sentience, but not human. It wouldn't denote that, but that's something that, you know, a person is an individual, but not all individuals are people, are persons. So, yeah, I've got, and I know it's like the weird PC thing. It just sounds, pretentious, maybe arrogant. Kill this bunny here. I just got marked AFK. It just, I don't know. It sounds like it's entirely too much. People are trying too hard to be nice. And trust me, I had a roommate that was much like the kind of person that is really keen on denoting the difference of pronouns. But I can tell people, even in like politics and stuff, are afraid of even using the generalized term of they. I mean, I understand. I'm a proud supporter of actually having a vocabulary. I understand that most people don't actually have a vocabulary anymore. They just want to shorten everything. So they start giving extra definitions to words that weren't technically there to begin with. Trolling. I've been on WoW for, well, a couple months after BC. Once I figured out what the term trolling was, and I'll consider this my fault, because the minute I knew about it, it started falling apart. It doesn't, I don't even think people know what it means anymore. It's just, you said something. It's like 2 months ago, it was, you said something I didn't like. You're trolling me, bro. Now it's, you said something. And I think the next step is, I may have imagined you uttered some sound. And eventually it's just going to involve everything. Silence, anything. Because as long as people can keep saying, you trolling me, it's, you know, and people accept it. You know, people aren't rising up against the aggressors in this, in this society. They're not rising up against it. They're not, there's a downfall of language. I mean, if you watched my coming out video, because it's full of hilarity, in the adult society, i.e. before high school graduation, and even a little bit into the high school, when I was a kid, so we're looking at the people that were 18 and graduating high school in the mid-'80s, they had an idea what gays were, who gays were, what homosexuality was. This has not been a secret about it. You know, if you met someone who was over the age of 20, past 1986, that didn't know what homosexuality was, and this is from like stories of, you know, my parents and other people's parents and people from the slightly older generation than me. It was just something you knew. You didn't talk about it, but you knew. But, you know, way back in like the 20s, or even back to the 50s even, or up to the 50s, the term gay was happy. Happy, jovial, full of good spirits. And it meant, it started out that way. That's what it was. And then it started becoming a euphemism in hushed tones for, well, gay men. Because in typicality, when you meet a gay man in society and you don't know they're gay, they do seem incredibly happy and spunky and perky and effeminate. And the only way is you can just, oh, he's really gay. Yeah, he's gay. That's where that came around. I've done enough research on this. That's where that came around. And pretty soon it just got to mean that, because, you know, all the other ones were too long. Homosexual. Blah, blah, blah. They were huge, and so, meh. Okay, sweet, awesome. And for a good long time, I have to say, up till the mid-2000s, at least when that came to my knowledge, is when the Straight Boy Society, or apparent Straight Boy Society, you know who you are, were so worried about their own manhood, regardless of whether it was under threat or not. They started, and they realized they could easily accuse someone else of it, and nobody would look at them. It was a diversionary tactic. And, you know, hey, look at Billy over there, he's gay. Oh, yeah. And eventually, you know, the high school football team and stuff started calling the nerds and the dumb people and the average Joes and all the people they didn't like gay. And it got misconstrued because people were coming into high school with the fact that, one, their parents didn't tell them what gay meant originally or secondarily. It didn't, so, because it was a non-thing at that time. It wasn't necessarily something you had to educate your kids about. Unless you were in ridiculously high religious society and you had to educate your kids from ground zero of all things that could make them a trial of faith. Those people kind of worry me. So, yeah. Oh my God, I've talked. Oh my gosh. I got rambling in anger. I ranted. I just ranted. Anyways, but now, you know, you can go to most places in where the society seems to be the 15 to 25, and if you say that's gay, nobody thinks happy. Nobody thinks melancholy. Nobody thinks merry. Nobody thinks jovial. Nobody even thinks homosexual male or female or anything of that. The immediate synonym they have is stupid, retarded, and dumb. It doesn't matter, and that's where it's moving to. And most of the people that watch this currently, when I'm recording this, already know this. I talked about it in Guild. Hi guys, yeah. This is probably for the future when perhaps maybe my subscribers get to a little bit higher and it starts getting moved around amongst the internet. Things like this don't happen overnight, but calling it now. Yeah, so things get, and that's what it means now. Who knows what it's going to mean in 10 years? Because it is a controversial word. The more controversial a word is, in any definition people want to use, the longer it sticks around because it gets people's goats. So, there's that. Anyways, I had to finish that thought up. I was not going to leave anyone hanging on that. You can make your own little inference. You can, blah, blah, blah. All that happy jazz. Sorry, it's Pandaria. I've got guildies and real ID friends logging on and off onto alts and stuff and taking care of their professions and stuff. Probably gonna, I wonder if I have enough milk for a pasta site. Oh, maybe I should go to the, I'll go to the store. I should. Okay. I'm rattling again. So, yeah. I haven't quite figured, tacking this one way on the end, I haven't quite figured out a good use for alter time. But I think I will. It's just a matter of time. Bye.